Hi guys, it's Anthony. I have just done my first successful impressioning, and this is probably going to be a long rambling video where I just sort of go through my thoughts. It's sort of an internal thing for me just to take notes on the things I learned while it's still fresh in my brain, because it could be 3 to 6 months before I do this again or longer. So at that point, I'm sure all of these things will have drained out of my brain. So impressioning, yes. So I'm going to assume you know what it is, that you might be looking into it, that you've watched a few videos. Basically, you're inserting a key into a lock, turning it, pulling it out, looking for marks, filing, and rinsing and repeating until you hopefully get a working key. So I had a small lock. It's a long story, but it was a minor lock. It was put on by a company. A key was given to the property owner. The property owner lost the key. The property was sold. The new owner wanted the key. The company said, well, you can just cut it off. It wasn't really a big deal. I basically took it upon myself to I picked the lock, and then I wanted to make a key so it could go back on, and then the new owner could have the key, and it could still be key-like for the company that would come out to service it if that's ever needed. So anyway, that's the background. I actually don't have the lock to show you because I put it back into service on the panel earlier today. But rest assured, once I successfully impressioned it, I turned that key in that lock and heard it pop probably 50 times just because I like the sound of it. But anyway, so impressioning can be very slow, and that if you have an overactive mind like mine, then that gives you a lot of time to analyze, reanalyze, hypothesize, obsess, and sort of come up with theories and prayers and swears and all sorts of things. So, but it did occur to me about halfway through, I would have these thoughts, or I would learn something, I'd say I should write this down. So I actually started making notes in my phone, and so I printed those out. Let's see. This is going to be kind of random, but if you've watched any of my other videos, that will not surprise you. Let's see. So here I have A, B, C, D, and E. These were it didn't start out this way, but basically this is sort of the progression, and basically all of these started to break, and then this was the final result of the working key. Let's see. So to start out, one very basic thing I picked up in a video, I think it was Fishpix did a video, is he mentioned figure out if it's 4-pin or 5-pin. It was a small lock. I was pretty sure it was 4-pin, but when he said that, I said, oh crap, has this been 5-pin all along? So that caused me a moment of doubt and horror. But the next time I did a blank, I looked at the starting marks and said, no, I really only see 4. If there was a 5th one, here's where it would be, and I don't see a mark there. So that was somewhat reassuring. But I should mention this was an unknown brand lock, so even getting the blank was a challenge. I didn't know. It wasn't an M1. I tried all the M varieties that I had. None of them fit. I posted about this on Twitter, but it looked kind of like a reverse M1 keyway. I took the lock to my local locksmith, and he tried maybe 10 or 15 keys off the board. He ended up coming up with a shaved down 1092R, which I think is also known as an M15. This is the one he actually gave me. He put this on a grinding wheel. He had to shave it 2 ways. He had to shave the blade from the top to get it thinner, and then he also had to shave it on the side, which I didn't realize until I tried to get it into the lock. So that was kind of a pain, and originally I had asked him, oh, can I get 5 blanks? And when he had to grind down the first one, I said, you're probably not going to give me the other 4, are you? He kind of laughed. But he only charged me $1 for a little bit of aggravation. So anyway, but I had M15s at home, which are the same thing as the 1092R, I believe. So even the blank was fun, because my theory was this was a cheap lock that the pump company basically probably bought 5,000 of them, all key-like, and whatever. So anyway, So let's see, I'm looking at my notes, which are over here. Bunch of notes printed out from my phone, and I came up with a few other ones. So let's see. These were, so I started taking notes from videos. The first 5 things were videos. I liked Bosnian Bill had a good video. Rubber Band had a few good videos on impressioning, and then I kind of gave up. And then the next set of stuff is my notes from actually figuring it out. But Bosnian Bill actually didn't even use an impression grip. He just kind of wiggled it back and forth. I thought about that, but I really wanted to try to make great marks, and I don't know. I just thought it would be better if I used an actual impression grip. So the impression grip that I used was this Framin one, which is probably overkill, especially for this small lock. Rubber Band has a great grip, which I have been looking forward to using, but I had to move my lock stuff a couple of months back, and in the process, stuff that I used to know where it was, I don't know where it is anymore, including, unfortunately, his grip. So I just wanted to get this project done. It was actually a real world useful thing, even if minor, but I kind of wanted to get it off my plate. So I spent 3 or 4 days doing it. So I used this. Don't think I have any tips. Actually, I do have one tip on this. So I found the first day that afterwards I kind of got, I forget where it was. I think my thumb, or there was some area that was sore, and I was like, oh God, I hope that's not going to blister. But the solution that I came up with, which was sort of silly, but worked, was I put a glove on. And so using the glove to get this in was a lot better. So let's see, how did I do? I did it like this, and then I kind of, it's a little bit of a pain to get it on, but you kind of hold it like this, and then, but the glove reduces awfulness on your hands, is what I found, especially when you're really trying to crank it tight. That definitely helped me. So that's a minor thing. So Rubber Band had in his video that he was only going to do 1 cut at a time. So he'd turn the key, to bind it hard, and then he'd take it out, and he'd only file 1 position, the best mark. I wanted to do that. I tried to do that, and then I just realized it was taking forever. And I said, I'm going to live dangerously. I'm going to file, if I see 2 good marks, I'm going to file both of them. I really wanted to do it his way. I was using, I believe this is a Grobet number 2. It's kind of a small round file, and I wasn't really pressing hard, which maybe in retrospect I should have been. I was kind of doing a medium length thing, and I did realize later that putting my index finger here kind of like forced me to have good technique. I don't think I had bad technique, but I think it was a little better, especially the liftoff. One of the videos, maybe Jos Vyers, I think he was, or someone said to kind of lift off on the stroke, or maybe it was Nidal, I don't remember. But I found that putting my finger on the index finger kind of helped me be straight, perpendicular to the key blade, and then also lift off. So let's see. I was doing kind of 4 passes. I don't know why I came up with that number. I just thought it just seemed to me like 4 passes would kind of take off. I didn't know what the depths were because it was unknown lock and unknown system. And even in the end, I don't know if it was a master small pin or what it was. So I couldn't really measure the depths. It's not like I could take calipers and say, all right, I know that 6 things will take me down depth because I didn't know anything about the key or the system. So I was so that was sort of the mental compromise I reached, was just 4 strokes. But so starting out, so I had, there was a CLK Supplies video. I should maybe put these on top of here. A CLK Supplies video where they mentioned, other people have mentioned this, blading the key to sort of go at an angle, try to take the key blank and come at it from an angle this way and then go the other way and kind of get a very fine edge. And I did that on one of these, and it was okay. I think I really liked, instead of doing bladed, taking the flat, and what I ended up doing, which I liked, I thought it worked very well, was after grinding, this particular blank I had to grind down quite a bit to get it to even fit in the lock, which the locksmith had done with his grinding wheel. I did with a thick bastard file, really just cranking it back and forth. I think the animals did not like that sound. Can't blame them. But then once it kind of got down to where it would go in and out of the lock, then I wanted to polish it. Instead of doing the blading, I did back and forth with rough sandpaper 220. And then once that kind of was like a first pass, then I went one direction only for a few passes with ultra fine or super fine or whatever fine, 1500 sandpaper, just to really try to make it have a a really smooth, like almost it says mirror fine, there it is, finish. So and then I put it in the lock and back and forth. You don't really need to bind it at the beginning because all you're trying to do is establish the key positions. And that brings me to my first point, I guess. But so here's my first blank, and all of my blanks, or most of them, have little black marks because. So I did the back and forth, and then I saw some very nice marks. You can almost see them with the naked eye, which is great. And then I kind of took my little magnifying glass and drew lines down the side to try to help me with the initial, because the initial strokes are very important. You want to really get those right on the marks, because that's going to be kind of the basis of all future filing. And in theory, the marks, if you put them down, they can help you stay on course rather than veering in one direction. So I initially used, I used a Sharpie, but this was kind of crappy. I think it's like maybe end of life or something, and for some reason, my local hardware store does not really have small Sharpies. The one that it didn't end up writing on metal, and this is kind of like I had to keep see, it's not even doing that well. I had to keep kind of like priming it by writing on paper, and it wasn't good. And then I remembered that I had gotten so I did that, I think maybe on the first blank, I don't even know. But I remembered that I had picked up from Lee Valley, and I think they sell it multiple places, but on a recommendation from someone in Jason SE Lock and Keys Live, I think it might have been Steam Gadget or a few other people, I picked up this marker, which was much better, and I think might be kind of oriented for writing on metal. You don't really need to go this crazy. I just happened to have already bought it, and it was like, that could be perfect. So, and that did work pretty well. What I will say, though, is I did notice that as time went on that I think some of that marker got in the lock as I was inserting it and pulling it out, because what would happen is I would file and then I would put it in and turn hard to get it to bind, wiggle up and down a few times, and then take it out, and I would see little black flecks. And at first I thought, my first initial thought was that the black marker was kind of flaking and making its way up to the key to fill in these little notches that I had been filing. I don't think that's really what was happening. Maybe that was happening a little bit, but I think by the second or third blank, I kind of was like, all right, I already made my initial marks, so what I'm going to do is, I think I use like hand sanitizer to just like wipe away the marker, because I was like, they serve their purpose, and so now I feel like it's getting in the lock, or getting in the cuts, so I wiped it away. But I think by that point it was already in the lock, because even in that case where I'd wiped it away, I still found sometimes I would take it out. So I constantly had to I ended up taking like a microfiber cloth and kind of like carefully like wiping between the cuts to get rid of the black flecks from the marker, and it was just kind of annoying. So I think in the future what I'll do is I'll do the lines down the side initially, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe them away except for the very bottom. So I'm going to leave the 4 or 5 marks at the very bottom, sort of under here. That way I can see them and they're sort of a place to aim for, but they're not going to end up really even getting in the key or getting in the lock or getting up in these cuts. So that's a minor point. It was just kind of annoying to constantly have to like wipe away the little black flecks, because you know, I would sometimes think, oh, that's a mark, and then I'd realize, oh, wait a minute, that's not a mark. That's a little piece of black from the marker. So anyway, minor point. So I oscillated. I think at first I was doing way too many back and forths, up and downs. It was I just think I was doing too much, and that's why I think my first blank broke so quickly. I don't know if you can see that cut, not that cut, that crack right down here. Let's see if that'll focus. Probably not. Oh, okay, maybe it will. But yeah, so that was, you know, I guess that was part of the learning experience of not over torquing it or overturning it. Later, I kind of got the idea to try to hold it closer to the actual blade rather than back here, because back here I felt like I was putting a lot of extra torque, whereas holding it up closer still let me put some torque, but I feel like it helped me not put less torque. So that's sort of a minor tip, I guess. So yes. Oh, so as time went on, like I reviewed a few videos on YouTube, and I saw that generally people didn't go back and forth crazy. Like I saw a few people who know what they're doing basically go hard right till it stops, and then up and down a few times, and then hard left, up and down, and then pull it out. I couldn't help myself. I was going, at the end, I was going hard right, up and down a few times, hard left, up and down a few times, and then I would do hard right again. But that was just me being a little nuts. But as time went on, I realized I really don't need to do up and down like 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 or more times, which I was doing early on, and is probably why my blank, other than holding it back and putting too much torque on it, you know, I think I was doing a little bit too much for it to be needed. Other thing, so I think I saw that Rubber Band was only going hard right in the open direction, but then I saw a bunch of other people kind of doing it both, and the book here said, so to resolve that discrepancy, the book here said to go back and forth, trying to see where it was. Let's see. It basically says go back and forth. Where to file, only file with a mark. I know you can't see that, but let's see. So this is a good book, primarily for the high quality color photos. Impressioning, yes, by Oliver Diedrichsen. And make sure you get the English version if you only speak English. I think the German version came out first. But anyway, there is something here where it says basically, I think I'm going too far now, but it basically says go both ways. So let's see, virtual marks. Let's see. There's something in here, I'm not seeing it, where it basically says go back, do it in both directions. I think that's what it says. The dynamic movement will be executed in both directions. That means in locking and opening direction. And this guy's kind of an impressioning god or champion or whatever. And so I kind of leaned in the direction, especially because I was running out of patience with this. I spent like 3 or 4 nights, many hours up late, etc., trying to get this done. I ended up going back in the choosing to go in both directions. So hard right, open, and hard left, lock. But yeah, the degree of hardness was adjusted as time went on because I got sick of blanks breaking too. So let's see. So files, I said I was using this Grobay number 2. Sometimes I noticed it was hard pulling the key in out of the lock, and I remember that there's this thing called canyoning where the cuts start to get almost vertical, and so I wanted to kind of make them shallower, so I did use this teardrop file. I don't know why I put it back in here, but I did, and yeah, so oh look, it magically came out. So I used the curved side of this to, this was a Grobay number 2 as well, but to kind of widen the cuts out, and that did help a little bit. yeah, so so that was good. What else? Let's see. I already said I reduced the number of times that I rocked it up and down to just a few each side. Oh, magnifier. So I started out with, I don't have a head spec maybe in the future, but I started out with this thing, which I had gotten, where was this from? MBAUSA.com. It's it goes on top of the Maglite. I think it's good. I like it. I think it didn't work out well with this particular key. Maybe if it was brass, it would have been better, but I ended up deciding that it was too shiny. It made it hard to see the marks. It was just too much light. So yeah, I don't know if there's like a weaker Maglite or something I should use instead or what, but it was too much. It kind of washed out stuff. I did use it early on with the early blanks, but when I first started this, I was going back and forth between several different magnifiers. And let's see, so I did that one. I still like it. I have a feeling it can be useful for maybe other key blanks in the future, and I'll still keep trying it. But and sort of as a double check, trying to see what it's called. I guess just 10x key impression magnifier. Part number MB16-A. There you go. This is something I had seen at one of my local tool chapter back in late 2019. I think Max Power might have had something like this, and this is okay. I didn't find it that useful, but again, as a sort of a second check, I would occasionally throw this in. It does have a light. There's a version with a light and without. If you really care about this one, I could find it. It was relatively cheap. Anyway, but it does have a little light, but the light is not amazing. It was, you do this, and then you kind of turn this around, and this little measuring thing is not really useful at all, so I'll make that go away, but it was okay. It didn't end up being that amazing, but yeah. And let's see. So I think what I ended up using the most, which I kind of loved with one minor caveat, was this Grobe LED loop triplet 10x 21 millimeter dual light, white, and UV. So it was good. Light, like with photography. This is the box for it. Yeah. So I guess that's a product number 29.615. If you look for that in Grobe, maybe it'll come up. It does have a nice little case. So I liked it. I ended up using it by my third blank or so. I was using it without turning the light on because this particular setup, the overhead lights actually worked well. Yeah. So I ended up doing this at night just because it was kind of annoying to hear me file and swear or just mutter to myself. Yeah. So the few times I did it in daylight, I did like what I saw, but I had other stuff going on, so I just didn't have time to do it during the day for the most part. So this was kind of my favorite, but it goes by three small, I don't even remember, like LR267 or three small batteries that are inside the back here. There's a special tool to open that up. What I found was that the light would be strong. If I turn the light on, it's strong for a few seconds and then it would fade. And in particular, it has white light and it has UV. And early on with my early blanks, I liked the UV. I felt like it was giving me superpowers to see marks that I couldn't otherwise see. But the UV would only be strong for like 3 seconds and then it would start to fade. So I don't know if these batteries are weak or what, or if this is like a knockoff that I bought, but I don't know. It doesn't really seem like a knockoff like that. I don't know. So I'm not sure. I Googled UV lamps for impressioning. Didn't really find anything useful. The Tag 5 light box is one, very expensive, and two, even more importantly than that, is also long out of stock. So that's where I ended up. I would have probably used the UV a little bit more, but it ultimately wasn't necessary. But it was a shame. So there were a few times where I just wasn't sure about a mark, and so I'd like turn off all the lights. I had to get up. I was turning lights on and off a lot while I was doing this. I'd turn off the lights, put the UV on for 3 seconds just to try to quickly find out if there were marks or if I could see something that way. But that wasn't very sustainable, and it kind of became a pain in the ass, jumping up and down a lot. So, but yeah, I noticed that I didn't even need the light with it. That the overhead lights here were kind of okay. So that's really what helped me settle into a rhythm. Occasionally I would put the white light on just as a double check. Like I'd see it naked or without light, and then I'd be like, all right, let me just turn this on and see if it looks different or what I can see. A big minor breakthrough for me was when I realized that the marks were kind of forming on one side. They were all on the left side of the key for the most part, and so that kind of gave me an area to focus on, because my first blank, I was like, I wasn't really sure what a mark looked like. Is that a mark? Is that a mark? I'm not sure. And then I guess it's just experience. But at least with this particular key blank and that particular lock, they kind of ended up toward the left side. So that kind of gave me a better idea to go by. So yeah, but this ended up being my favorite with a few caveats, like I said. I would like to get some new batteries and try it. I suspect it's just a nature of the way it is. I'm open to trying other magnifiers, but that worked pretty okay. So I discussed how I sanded it flat, I didn't blade it, how I wiped off the marker, the glove to not hurt my hand with the frame and grip, how I figured out what the key marks were on the side, the lift off and using the index finger. Yes, that's a good thing. Holding it closer to the bow of the key to try to not put as much. One thing that occurred, so I never actually broke a blank. I did get close. Probably the worst was on this one. You can probably even see it naked or without extra magnification. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard to, like right there, the cracks. This is the worst one. And then after that, I kind of was paranoid, because it became apparent to me early on that the first cut was somewhat deep, and that was going to make it even more likely to break. So I got paranoid about that and so I think after the third one, so I had 5 blanks. So I think when I started noticing a crack on C, then I said, all right, well, I'm not going to start over, because I felt reasonably okay about my progress. I always worried that I had gone past and was making new marks because I had gone past the shear line or whatever. But so what I did was I took another blank, I kind of put it next to it, and then kind of doubled it up like this, really tried to make sure it was similar, as close as I could. And then I took this marker, obviously out of its cap, but I took the marker and kind of made marks on the new blank, and then I used a Lishi clipper to try to reproduce the progress I had already made. You don't want to go deeper, so to try to err on the side of caution. But that was okay. So that was D. D was clipped with the Lishi, and then I started filing from there. I really wondered whether that was a good strategy or if I should just start over fresh. If I had gone on to F, G, and H, I suspect at G and H I might have started over fresh, but I didn't. It worked out okay. So D was Lishi clipped, and then D I started to notice a hairline crack in the first cut, and I was like, oh God, I think I might be close. I really don't know, but it just, after so much work, it just broke my heart to start to see a crack, and which means if I keep going, it's gonna snap. So that was crappy. So what I did with D, to go from D to E, was I actually put D, because it wasn't cracked. I could just see the hairline had spread all the way across the cut, but it didn't go down the side. So I said, well, it's in reasonably good shape. So what I did is I put it on the duplicator, and with the blank, and I just duplicated it, which I think was probably maybe a little better than the Lishi cutter. So Yeah, and so I didn't know if that was a smart idea or not. It worked, so I guess it was a smart idea, but I don't know. But I just didn't want to lose the progress I had. So that's how I took my progress from D and transferred over to E, and then gave it a few quick files just to smooth it out from the duplicator, and then I kept going with the impressioning. And to my shock, it did ultimately open when I wasn't expecting it. I thought I had hours ahead of me because I didn't know how deep I was going to have to go on these. The lock did rake open, so I suspected that the bidding was relative, not too extreme, but who the hell knows. Let's see if there's anything else here. So if notice blank breaking duplicate, yes, I guess it worked for me once, so I'm going to do it. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of shavings, so put something underneath, like I don't know, about plastic or a folder or just something, because you're going to end up with these fine shavings that are all over the damn place. So yeah, if you can, that's helpful. Apparently I was really big on this glove. I put it twice. The Pica marker or the Sharpie I discussed can get inside the mark if you're not careful. I did mention how I liked putting the marker at the bottom, or I'm going to do that in the future. And let's see. I will try to put some photos of marks. It is difficult to do it with a cheap phone camera magnifier setup. I did try to get some, but let's see. So So what I was doing was I would put it in and I'd do hard right, up and down a few times, and then hard left, up and down a few times, and then hard right once more, and then take it out and look. If I saw what I thought were like awesome, really clear round marks, like that would be like definitely I would do like 4 strokes. I did get to the point where sometimes I felt like they were faint marks and I wasn't sure, and maybe I just should have left those alone. Sometimes what I did, depending on the mark, is I would say, well, you know what, I'm just going to give that like 1 cleanup stroke to see if it comes back or what the situation is. Just, it kind of bothered me. So like a lot of times I would pull it out of the lock after turning it, and I'd say like, all right, almost like LPL, but like I would do like, all right, nothing on, like I don't see a thing on the first cut, so 0 on the first cut. The second one would be like, yeah, that's a clear mark, 4, and then like maybe like the third one would be like, I don't really see anything, and the fourth one would be like, well, I kind of see a mark, I just kind of want to get rid of it, I don't know. So I'd be like, all right, 0, 4, 0, 1, and it would just be like, that would be like the strokes, and then I just do it. I would just do, all right, so nothing, then I go shh, 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 and then go over to the last one, and then just do 1, and then this probably lengthened the process. I couldn't help it. Sometimes after filing, I would look over and say, all right, does that look smooth, or did I not get rid of something? Sometimes I wanted to get rid of something that kind of was mark-like, but I knew it wasn't a mark, but it was just based on kind of maybe initially filing at an angle or something, and I just wanted to get rid of it. So, but yeah, so I don't know if that was good or bad. That's what I ended up doing. Again, I wasn't really pressing too hard on the file, but yeah, so all right, so this is already 33 minutes. I promised you a long rambling video, and I did not disappoint. I think those are all the tips that I have, but it did work. It ultimately worked. This is my impression key that I'm reluctant to get rid of. You can see the little marks in the framing grip. There's 2 little marks over here, and then what I did from there is I just put it. Trying to remember if I don't know if I duplicated it or if I did a Lishi cut and then I filed that down and then I duplicated that. I think that's what happened because I wanted to end up with 3 keys, 1 for me, 1 for someone else, and then sort of the original impression one that I'm just holding on to. I don't know why, but yeah, so that's what I ended up with, and. All right, so I hope you found that useful. I'm sure that in 6 to 12 months, when I next have to impression a key, I may find this useful because I probably will have forgotten most of these tips by then. So anyway, good luck, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section, which will be below. All right, thanks. Bye.